Hello and welcome to Rock and Metal Invasion. My name is Steve. Alright, today I'm going to be doing a magazine recap. I'm going to be looking at Metal Forces number 24 from 1987. Now, Metal Forces is a magazine that I didn't actually read in the 80s. I read Metal Hammer and Kerrang, but I didn't know about Metal Forces. Maybe it never was never available here in New Zealand. I'm not too sure, but I've discovered it later on, and it is a fantastic magazine. Quite similar to Metal Hammer, but you can see here it's got 56 pages and lots of great information. So we're doing a recap of a magazine that is 1987. We're talking 35 years old. You can see that they cover wide variety of different artists. So it's Ace Frehley, but you've got Death, Holy Terror, Poison, Suicidal Tendencies, King Diamond on the cover. I've highlighted some things from the magazine I just wanted to have a quick little chat about. So here's a news item. California's greatest ever band. It's got a statement. Legs Diamond could be recording a farewell album as you read this. Sources in LA suggest that an offer has been put to the band, who have in fact split up again to do a final record without the pressure of making a hit single. I thought that was a bit interesting because they did release albums after 1987, but it wasn't a final album. They carried on for a little while. On news here, so this is Pretty Maids, and the news here they've added Angel Schleifer, who was in the band Sinner. I don't think he stuck around for long though, because not long after this he ends up in Bonfire. But yeah, really good. Lots of news in here. About Brittany Fox there. Brittany Fox are expected to sign to Columbia Records. I've also got some information here about Greg Giuffria is hard at work on the third Giuffria album for Camel Records. The new lineup sees the return of Chuck Wright from Quiet Riot, Ken Mary from Fifth Angel on the drums, and Lanny Cordola and David Glenn Isley on vocals. Now, of course, that third album ends up being the House of Lords album, and I think Isley did do vocals for it, or at least he's done vocals for some of the songs from that House of Lords album, but I'm not sure. Gene Simmons from Kiss was the producer, I think, on that album, or at least he was the executive producer. We had some. They were on his label, and I had a feeling he wasn't that keen on Isley and his vocals in there, so they got James Christensen in to do the vocals, and he's still in the band, and House of Lords is still going. Some late news here. Metal Forces were going to press, and they've learnt that Rat Skates has quit Overkill. Yeah. He started the band with bassist D.D. Verney. He's getting married and doesn't want the pressures of touring anymore. I think there were some issues that he's talked about since then that wasn't just about getting married, but it's so interesting that he's left the band, but there is an interview here with him and with Bobby. This must have been done prior to him leaving, obviously. We'll just speed through this. As you can see, it's there's quite a lot of content in this magazine. I don't want to spend too long. Interesting always looking at the adverts for albums that are coming up. EXE, I've actually got that album. I don't have a lot of thrash in my collection, but Stricken by Might, it's okay. Yeah, now this is Return of Riot. Cult US metal merchants Riot are back. So they had actually split up for a while. And so, um, saying here, my first question was why Mark um, has decided to form Riot again. Instead of continuing with the band he formed after Riot broke up, Narita. Um, and I'm pretty sure there was a Riot album called Narita. But yeah, but he just decided that Narita wasn't going to work, so he's got Riot back together. I think this is just prior to the Thundersteel album. So he's asked why what's happened with Guy Speranza, who was one of their, I think he was their first vocalist. Um, and they've asked him, why did Guy leave? And Mark has said, well, we can never figure out why he left. It blew us away at the time because the band was really moving at that point. When Guy left, a lot of people were disillusioned and they are going to be quite surprised on what the band sounds like now. A lot of people really like the albums that featured Guy on vocals, the right albums that had Guy on vocals. Sword and Tequilas, that's a great song. Chastain, new album from Guitar Hero David Chastain with Leather on lead vocals. It's Leather Leone, of course. Nice. Never heard of them. But interestingly, the advert or the ad for the band here says the second LP from the band who has started the metalcore wave. I'm not sure if they started metalcore, but anyway. DRI. Well, I mean, they definitely had maybe something to do with metalcore. Even saying here, DRI are trying to tear down the boundaries that exist between metal and hardcore. If you want to read any of this, I guess you could probably pause the video and read. Time for some real hardcore, Jerry's Kids. Gangrene. All right, now we're at the reviews. Interesting, they call the review section metal on vinyl. So vinyl was just so big at the time. And what's interesting too with their reviews, they give a score out of 100. And it's kind of weird because, I mean, they give like very precise scores. So EXE, we just had an advert before, they've given them 93, not 90. uh, yeah, 93. I don't know how they exactly worked that out, but anyway, it's out of 100. And so anything from 90 to 100 is an essential buy. Some of these albums I'm not familiar with. But that's why I quite like looking back on it, and especially if the review sounds like something I might want to check out. Like Mistrust, Spin the World. Never heard that before, and they're comparing it to Dokken, so I'm sort of thinking, I might have to check that one out. Features former Culprit vocalist. Oh yeah. It's got a review here for Freely's Comets debut album. Ace Frehley called Freely's Comet. 93 out of 100. Youth of Today, I know them. Now Battle Zone, that's Paul Diano's band. Children of Madness. It's a pretty good album actually. That's the second Battle Zone album. But only got 65. Yeah, that's not particularly good. They do give lower scores as you're about to see, I think, down here. An interesting one that they gave 0 out of 100 to. I think that's coming up on this one here. There's an advert there for White Line. Yeah, here we go. Celtic Frost. Into the Pandemonium. 0 out of 100. I don't think he's a person who wrote the review here. I don't think he's a fan. I'm not a particularly big fan of that album. Um, yes, 0 out of 100. He's put footnote. No doubt this review will spark another verbal attack from the glossy lips of Mr. Thomas Gabriel Fisher, aka Warrior, and being Metal Forces will give him a chance to put his views in these very pages. That's, of course, if Tom can lower himself to speak to MF and its readers. Yeah, there we go. Giving them a bit of a hard time. Be nothing like the hard time they're going to get when they put out Cold Lake. Trooper, that's Gary Barden's band. Gary Barden, formerly from MSG. Oh, look at White Lion. Right. Only 9. I mean, why not just give them 100, guys? Jeez. Anyway. It's good. I don't think it's 99 out of 100 good, but anyway. Moving on. From Molly, UK hard rock band. Know them. Anvil, Strength of Steel. So lots of reviews in here. Hip Hop Death, Scum, that's a pretty well-known album. A good score, 91. Black Rose, I know that I've got that album, Walk It How You Talk It. UK, so it's on Neat Records. But yeah, it's one of those, the UK bands, especially the ones on Neat Records, weren't usually going down the hair metal road or the Bon Jovi kind of road, but it does sound a bit Bon Jovi, so they're talking about it. Having some Bon Jovi, being a little Bon Jovi sounding, but I don't necessarily mind that. Okay, let's keep moving here. Oh, Keel, 1987's self-titled album. I only gave it 70. I think that's a good album, but I mean, 70 doesn't seem like that bad, but when you think some of the scores they're giving some of the other albums. Um, but anyway. Lizzie Borden only got 60. I think it's better than that. Yeah, so some quite obscure bands. I mean, I know Monroe, hair metal band, but you know, they're talking about it being pop metal, AOR. Yeah, it's kind of is. Yeah, not the most well-known band, but they cover a wide variety of bands. Sacred Child, that's a female-fronted band. I'm going to talk about that on my next female-fronted episode. And the vocalist is actually Astrid Young, who is the sister of Neil Young. 69 out of 100 they gave it. Yeah, it's fairly average, I have to say, that album. Yep, still going, lots of reviews. Okay, and advert here for Earache Records. Singles, some more reviews. Metallica 598 EP review here. Talking about the fact that the US release of this EP will include an additional track. So the reason for the omission, this track is not on the UK EP, is that if it included all 5 songs, then it would be classified as a mini album and not qualify as a single. Yeah, so I guess the UK people are hoping it's going to hit the singles chart, so that's why they only wanted to have 4 songs. Pussycat, calling it trashy rock and roll, which is probably not a bad description. And they're talking about some other bands who also had that sound, and absolutely right. Jet Boy, LA Guns, a few other bands I don't really think ended up doing much, but it's got Demoles in there. The person reviewing this is a big fan of the song Babylon and On, and compares it to the Beastie Boys because yes, it does have some rapping in it. Savage Steel, I'm not that familiar with that. And that's interesting artwork, eh? I mean, that's real 80s metal kind of artwork. Pretty cool. I don't know what the music's like. Uh, Quorthon? I don't know if I'm saying his name right. Bathory? I mean, I've heard of the band, but I'm not really. It's a bit outside my area. But yeah, well known band. I'm not really into the extreme metal. I don't know how extreme it was in the mid '80s when this was coming out, but yeah, fortunately he died in 2004. But here he is blowing some flames. Definitely influential. And John Gallagher from Raven. Hey, lots of detail here. The good interviews. Don't know what that's about. Be thrash band, I guess. Ah, this is interview with Chuck from Death. Someone else who unfortunately passed away far too young. And here's an advert for the. Oh no, it's not an advert. It's actually an interview here with Ace Frehley from Frehley's Comet. So he said he's asked here, wasn't Breakout written for the Elder? And he says yes, it was considered and dropped. The guys didn't think it was strong enough. So Breakout's on the Frehley's Comet album, but yeah, there we go. It'd been around for a while, and it was written for Elder. Didn't know that. Some more comments from Ace. How did he come to exclude Catch Me When I Fall Animal and Give It to Me Anyway from the new record? I just decided that I didn't want to do them. Give It to Me Anyway might make it onto the next album. I think it did make the Loaded Deck album, the like greatest hits or compilation album, I think, that Ace Frehley put out. But yeah, a couple of those other songs, you can find them on YouTube. But yeah, they weren't released on an album. I was asked what happened to Richie Scarlett. Richie Scarlett does come back into the band later on, I think. But yeah, so yeah, originally he shared vocals in Freddie's Comet. He's pursuing a solo career. He's got his own manager, and he'll probably be getting his own record deal real soon. He did put out some records. He felt like their vocals didn't really blend together well, and of course he's got Todd Howarth. Um, Up here talking about Vinnie Vincent, and he said it seemed odd to me that you were performing "Back on the Streets," which is a Vinnie Vincent song, in 1985, a song that had already appeared on the Vinnie Vincent Warrior demo. I got that song from the guy who was my manager at the time. Now he's Vinnie's manager. There's no animosity between me and Vinnie. Someone had to fill my shoes. I quit Kiss. If I'd been kicked out of the band and then some other guy took over, it would have been a different story. But the fact is that I wanted to leave, and now I left the group out of my own free will. Obviously, they had to hire somebody, so there's no animosity between me and Vinnie. Again, it's all good there between him and Vinnie. Yeah. Catalog, all that. CDs and records. Probably just records, man. I'm not sure actually what else I got there. Tapes, maybe. Sure. CDs weren't really so much of a thing at this point, this time. Right, we're at page 28 out of 56. So, like I say, there's a lot to cover here. Try and move it on a bit. There's there's a lot in this magazine. Um, oh yeah, so this is an interview here with Slayer. I'm not sure who's he talking to. Um. Anyway, we'll move on. Talking to Tom. Okay, here we go. And this is he's made some interesting comments here about Wasp. How was your tour supporting Wasp? Seemed like a strange package to me. Slayer playing with Wasp, Tom says. Yeah, they were calling us the odd couple. Haha. Wasp were a bunch of assholes. They wouldn't allow us to do a lot of the things we wanted to do. When I say they, I mean Blackie, because that is Wasp. Anyway, there was an argument before the start of the tour as to what we would get, and that just wasn't happening. So we said to them, "Look, you either give us 100% of what we agreed, or we'll jump the tour." So Blackie quickly changed his mind to keep us on the tour, and he gave us everything. Let's put it this way: we would come on, play our set, walk off, and three-quarters of the audience would leave. And that's the way it was throughout the whole tour. I won't read any more, but I don't know if that's true or not, but there we go. A lot of love lost there between Wasp and Slayer. And yeah, it is a bit of an odd one. I mean, I'd be pretty happy going to a Wasp and Slayer concert, but yeah. Some thrash metal. You can see here, all these albums have got very good scores. Metal Forces, Death Angel, Ultraviolence 96, Terror got 98, and Death 97. I mean, why not just give them 100, guys? Jeez. Interview here with Brittany Fox about their connections with Cinderella. They hadn't actually signed with a major label. Is talking about they had a 6 or 7 track EP out prior to signing with a major label. They're talking about that more, and the fact that their drummer had died in a car accident just after their independently released album had been put out. Um, Helion. So talking about, so they actually got have some connection with Dio. So the first thing I wanted to know was why Helion sort of dropped out of sight for a while, and then Anne says our first EP really opened a lot of doors for us. Dio got hold of an EP, got hold of a copy of the EP, and decided he was going to produce our first album. Part of the deal was that his wife Wendy was going to cover the management aspect. And when the band hooked up with Dio, we had nothing but high hopes. Fortunately, things just didn't work out. Ronnie was busy with a solo band, and Wendy was busy managing Rough Cut. So they ended up being in the background doing nothing. We weren't making any money and nothing was happening. It's just so bad that the band had to go back to 9 to 5 jobs. It was a low point in the history of Helion. We decided that the only way we were going to get anywhere was to break away from Dio management. But he did produce one song, so you can hear one song that Dio did produce. But I'm not sure. It might be on a compilation or something. I don't think it's on one of their albums. But and it's a good song, and it actually does remind me a bit of Dio. Anyway, moving on. Go see. I'm not really that familiar with him, so we'll just keep going. That's what it's a bit like with this magazine. But that's interesting, isn't it? You find out bands you don't know too much about. Interesting. They've just given this album 0 out of 100, but they've still got an advert in the magazine. But there we go. Even though I assume they're paying to have their album advertised in the magazine, they're not holding back. I'm still giving them 0 out of 100. Okay, Poison. So we go from Celtic Frost to Poison. That's exactly the way it is on this magazine, but that's pretty cool. Yeah, we don't really need to read about them though. It's the Reader's album charts. So not really can see that this magazine, at least the people who read it, they probably like the heavier stuff more than the sort of 80s hard rock, glam metal kind of stuff, because most of that top 10 is, metal or thrash metal. Uh, Really nothing that you would qualify, that would qualify as glam metal, hard rock. Queen's rock maybe is in there, but yeah, a lot of heavier stuff. That was Latest is a bit different. So the people who write for the magazine, some of them have got some hard rock in there. Kel Hellraiser, he's the more the sort of hard rock, glam metal kind of guy, I think, and Dave Reynolds as well, actually. Yeah, Guardian. They actually, it's funny because yeah, it says here recently signed to Enigma Records, Guardian, but they've spelled it Gardian. So spelled because of other acts with the name Guardian. Look like spreading the word in close proximity to Striper, and they've got Striper's Oz Fox producing, and that's is what happened. It took them a couple more years though for the album to come out. This is '87, and the album came out in '89. But they go back to, or they use the name Guardian, Guardian, when they do release the album, and they don't have that image. And interesting, I'm talking about band names. So Precious band used to go under the moniker of Precious Metal, and their debut release right here, right now. But it looks like they have changed their name to just Precious, but then they do go back to being Precious Metal on their next album, which is produced by Paul Zebu. So they must have thought it for 1 minute, which, I can kind of see that. Maybe take the metal out of their name, but they decided to keep it in the end. But at this point, they were just calling themselves Precious. I didn't know until I read this. Got a few other bands here that are sort of Deep Freeze. Not sure about them. Rings a bell. It's like it's female fronted. I have to have a look at that. Yeah. So these are bands that are kind of up and coming, or have released something, or are currently independent. Like Love Hate, World Tour '87. So this is very early Love Hate. I don't think their debut album comes out until 1990, I think. So this is '87. They've only probably just changed their name maybe to Love Hate, because they were formerly known as Data Clan, and they did release a mini album as Data Clan. They're talking about the vocalist, his name being Jim Wilkinson. That's basically Jizzy Pearl. Um, Mentions the song Tranquilizer, so that does appear on an album later on. But a lot of those other songs I'm not familiar with. Um, that's sweet. Looks like another female fronted one. But don't know them. Yeah, yeah, it's interesting. Uh, this is an interesting one. So this is King Cobra. King Cobra finally bounced back from the dead with a new lineup. So replacing Mark Free, or who's known now as Marcy Free. Mark Free went on to be an unruly child, but replacing Mark Free from King Cobra is Mark Torin, who ends up, of course, leaving. Uh, so he doesn't actually stay in King Cobra for long. He ends up, of course, in Bullet Boys. But it's interesting too that it talks about one of the songs that they've got ready for the new King Cobra album is a song called Kissin' Kitty. So King Cobra did do a version of Kissin' Kitty prior to it actually ending up on the Bullet Boys album. It's quite interesting. Strut, direct action. Yeah, not really familiar with them. May have heard of Strut. I've definitely heard of Gypsy Queen, fronted by twins Pam and Paula. I've featured them on my female fronted one of my female fronted episodes. It says here they once posed topless for Playboy in a special Woman in Rock feature. Yeah, it's true they did. And it's talking about the album they've just recorded with producer Jack Douglas. Bet Leg, never heard of them. On the other side, it's an advert for Satan. Dangerous suicidal tendencies. Yeah. All right, we're getting to the end. We just might just speed through some of this. So they talk about some of the fanzines. Um, tape trading as well was quite big for people who read this magazine. Oh yes, so they'll come up in the pen pals. Now this is Phantasm. It's a live review by a review done by Gary Sharp. I'm not sure if the E is silent, but anyway, I've highlighted this. But Phantasm's most beneficial asset is Jan Stevens. Her vocal delivery would shame a pride of lions. This girl can roar. And he actually says, quite simply, she is the best female metal singer I've ever heard. Doro Pesh doesn't even come half distance to approaching her unrestrained power. There we go. So that's quite bit of praise there for her. Now, these guys, Phantasm, didn't actually release anything officially. There's a demo, some demo recordings that if you look hard enough, you can find online. But she did also, Jan Stevens does also feature on the Highlander 2 soundtrack. She did a song called Trust with Paul Heron. And there are some unreleased um, songs that Heron, I think it's called Heron and Stevens, did, which are really good hard rock. They sort of did them in the early 90s, and you can find them on YouTube if you're interested in that. They're pretty good. Okay, some more live reviews. We'll just skip through this pretty quickly. Tesla. And this is a pretty a lot of detail here. It's about Malice, recent UK tour with Slayer. Lots of talk about Malice being a real metal band. They're real metal. In capitals. Real metal. I don't know what that means. Well, I think I know what it means, but I don't know if you should say that. Anyway, yeah, so that's Primal Scream. I've heard of a band called Primal Scream, but it's not this band. All right, there's King Diamond, Mickey D, quite young man. Talking about what's happened with Merciful Fate. Yeah, well, sort of evil kind of band there. Looking quite happy. I don't know. If it wasn't for King Diamond, you'd think it was a bit of a metal band, really. Yeah. Anyway, his comment has now landed. So advertising that. Holy Terror. Uh, Chat with Paul Diano about Battlezone. I don't know about the fashion guys. I really don't know. Oh yeah, readers' letters. I just highlighted this one because this one's there's a letter here from the parents of Cliff Burton. I'll just quickly read it. Dear Middle Forces, first we'd like to thank you, the editorial staff, for the sensitive statement regarding Cliff in the number 22 editorial. We'd also like to thank the readers for voting our dear son Cliff the best bassist of 1986. You gave him an honour that he richly deserves. It seems that the heavy metal family all over the world has taken us into their hearts, and we are grateful. Of course, we still support Metallica 100%. To those who wanted to write but did not have our address, we can be reached at the following address and would love to hear from any of Cliff's devoted fans. Oh, there we go. That was a nice thing to do, wasn't it? You could write to them. Good one too. All right, and we're at the end. I said pen bangers, so these are people just going to want to hook up with people who like similar music, but there's also a lot of tape trading comments in here as well. It's tape trading. So this is for the internet. So yeah. And then finally an ad there for State Trooper. Barry Barden, of course, used to be in MSG. Put out a couple of albums, I think. But all right, so that's it. Metal Forces number 24. And I might do another one of these, maybe Metal Forces, maybe Metal Hammer. I'm not sure, but hope you found that interesting. And yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll be back later. Okay, I'll see you. Bye.